Will you give yourself permission to do less, disconnect, and engage in real rest? Will you permit yourself to celebrate how wonderfully extraordinary your ordinary day can be?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. I am delighted to have back with us today Dr. Amna Shabbir. She is a double board certified geriatrician-internist, a fierce advocate for early career physicians, and the founder of the Early Career Physician Institute. She is a super mama and an amazing human being. So, Amna, thank you so much for being here.
I am so glad and so flattered to be back here, Jillian. Thank you for having me.
Yep. And for anyone that missed it, I have her with me. She shares a little bit more about her story from February of this year. If you're listening in 2024, and if you're listening later than that, it's in 2024. So go back, check it out, learn more about Amna. But what sparked us coming together today was an article that she wrote called The Consciously Lazy Doctor. And it caught my attention as someone who grew up hearing the word lazy used in a very derogatory way. And I spent my whole life making sure I proved that I was never, ever, ever lazy, which led to a lot of maladaptive thoughts and behaviors. So, Amna, for people who have not yet had the opportunity to read the article, would you mind reading it for us today?
Thank you, Jillian. I'd be glad to, and I'm looking a little bit in a different direction as I do that. The title, Consciously Lazy Doctor. This is what I choose today. Today I choose to not work at all, mentally and physically. Today I choose to let the laundry be unfolded and the dishes stay in the dishwasher and the sink, not taken out. I choose to lay in bed in my pajamas with my cup of coffee. Today I choose to say no to an invitation to an overwhelming social event. I choose to not turn on my laptop and finish my charting. Today I choose to consciously pause the ever-present, incessant, mostly sneaky cycle of comparing myself to non-existent ideals, other physicians, other mothers, and more. Today I choose to throw my phone away and quit refreshing my email. Today I choose to look at how much healthier my life has become overall and not obsess over my stretch marks. Today I choose to recognize that I have everything I have ever wanted in my life. Today I choose to remember that the 18-year-old me would have been tremendously proud of how far I have come. I woke up and I did not do a lot. To the outside world, this might seem unremarkable, but I know for many, the act of giving yourself permission for real rest and celebrating your successes is extraordinary. This is an act of conscious decision making. This will not happen spontaneously, but rather only by design. Will you give yourself permission to do less, disconnect, and engage in real rest? Will you permit yourself to celebrate how wonderfully extraordinary your ordinary day can be?
Oh my gosh, I have a wave of emotions coming through me. I want to pause because I know I'm not going to be the only one. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
When you were in that state that day that you chose to write that message, can you share what was coming up for you?
I was literally in the kitchen. I was holding a cup of coffee. This was typed on my phone, and I just looked around, and the kitchen was a mess. I have two little girls. The house was a mess. It was clean, but there was clutter, and it was less than perfect. Um, I hadn't gotten ready yet. It was a day, I believe it was Saturday or Sunday, and I wasn't working, but there was when you're not working, you're still working kind of day. I had some friends that wanted to meet up and all the things, and I just said, "Can I just be? Can I just be and not do?" And that's when all of this was like, you know what? It's a choice that I can make, and today this is what I chose. And first, initially, like my first reaction was like, "Are you seriously going to do that? Like, come on." Um, you have 10 different things to do on your rest day. And that's like 10 after minusing all the other things, which I will do, but they never make the list, the never ending list. Like, so I asked myself this question, can I just be? That was the first thing. And when I am feeling this way, writing helps. And this initially started just as a journal prompt. And so I started writing this. And as I was writing this, I took again a pause and just looked around me. And I realized I have everything. I mean, the 18-year-old version would be so delighted. The 18-year-old Amna, if she knew that she had, my God, like finished medical school, finished residency, did a fellowship, got married, had children, is living this life, and not just the good parts, also all the other things. Um, when I was expecting my first child, I had a diagnosis that was sight-threatening, and I was a resident, and I made it. And thankfully, can see she's fine. I battled postpartum depression twice. I'm still here. We're all here. We're okay. I went through burnout, not the only person, all the other things. I fell down, fractured my foot, my right foot, couldn't drive, was sort of laid up in bed. And, I was standing and walking around without my boot, without my cast, without my scooter, and one thing after the other. And the pandemic happened, and I lost some loved ones in the pandemic, but I was there. I was breathing. I was alive. I was I was whole. And I didn't have to do anything if I didn't want to.
Mhm.
And as I'm thinking all this and I'm writing all this, I'm just like, wow, that sounds mighty lazy. You
Mm,
could, at least you could do the laundry. And for anyone who knows me, knows how much I just don't like folding laundry.
mm,
I don't like to use the H word, but I'll say it. Yeah, I hate folding laundry, and I'm never going to love it. But I know that I also like things to be organized. So now we have buckets, and we do laundry, and the laundry goes into those buckets, and we survive.
mhm,
But it's like this judgment on top of judgment. And then the moment I'm writing this, I'm doing this, I'm feeling all the feelings. It's constant. It's the other things that just stick out right away. Like you can't be, you can't just be, you also have to do.
mm. So fascinating too. First of all, there's so many reasons why, we keep coming up with reasons why we became so close, and it's the laundry, really, is what it is. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. We've clearly had a lot of different, deeper, deep connections, but laundry is one of my least favorite tasks as well. And I wrote something yesterday that was just saying, like, my laundry stays in the dryer. I am N of one, like family of one plus dog. And my laundry stays in the dryer until I wear the outfit again. And then it goes into the washing machine and then it will go into the dryer eventually. And sometimes I forget about that, but yeah, so for whoever has this chore, it's like usually this chore, it's usually the never ending ones, the dishes, like the one is like the never ending, it never ends.
It
So
never ends.
yeah. So like it reminds me of Lamb Chop, actually. That song just went in my head. This is the song that yeah. But you went through so much, right? You're just saying like you were okay. And when you captured like you have everything you want in life and you also captured the things that were lost, like the hard parts of it. So I really appreciate that you showed the full spectrum of not of life, not just saying like, here's my great life and comparing it to the have nots. Is here's my great life and there's things I've lost. There's things that I didn't have that maybe I would have wanted, but yet what I do have is enough.
Yes. It's the enoughness. I mean, we can talk as much as we want about the enoughness and how we're hardwired just by, self-selecting as physicians. We are high achievers. We are perfectionists. We self-selected among other high-achieving professionals to have this streak. And, all the work that, I mean, that is really what it boils down to. For example, Jillian, there were a couple, I took a brief sabbatical between fellowship and starting out my clinical work. I do part-time clinical work. And in that time frame, I had to study for boards, I'm healing from burnout. But in my brain, I was like, oh my God, I'm a housewife right now. And
Mm,
I need this is my job, and look at my house, and the tasks are not getting done. And I think that it hit me full force because I wasn't actively doing patient care at that time. I started like questioning my identity.
Mm.
I ended up reading a book called How to Keep House While Drowning, and it's a really good book. I'm forgetting who the author is,
Mm.
but the book helped me kind of calm down, like, taking the judgment away from the how clean things are, how organized things are. And I think that was also a very large part of the word that comes to my mind is flawless. When you strive for being flawless, there's no space to breathe, and it's exhausting and perpetuating constantly. Um, and that's kind of the society that we're living in right now, because everything has a filter, is airbrushed. The content that you're seeing, if the content that you're viewing is making you feel less than, that's not okay.
Yeah.
All of that feeds into each other, because then you use the word lazy. Well, that's what it completely circumference completely, in terms of when you are lazy, you're not producing, you're not productive.
Yeah.
You're also not doing all the other tasks that you're supposed to do outside of your clinical role or your entrepreneurial role. I mean, shuttling people to activities A to B, or even for yourself, like, I mean, research projects and all the things that you've brought home. I did have, I've become very conscious with completing all my charting when I'm working. But yeah, it brought back like a lot of memories where the work week never ended and the next part just started. And so there was such fear of being perceived as lazy. And honestly, like, who's going to do all of this? Like, if you're striving and comparing yourself to the ideal is this, I don't know, some lady on Instagram with this like beautiful house and somewhere. And we all internalize those messages. Like, if I say all of a sudden I'm not, that would be wrong. I think also socially we're conditioned that way. I think culturally, where I found myself, I was hyper conditioned to be that way, to present myself in a certain way. That's all very exhausting and energy depleting. And as I was like, all of this is coming from the word enough.
Yeah.
And I really then did another post. Like, I was thinking about my life and all the times I constantly did feel never enough. And the times I still do, like, I'm still, this keeps coming up. It's sneaky. And then how can I, just stop? And so this post was then followed by another one in which I just said, for the first time in a long time, I was enough for me.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult. I mean, if you don't consciously decide that, it's
Hmm.
not happening.
You just painted the picture of this performance-based identity, and it's bringing back the book I'll share also. I'll share the book you mentioned in the description, and also Michael Gervais' book, with which I talk about with the overcoming fear of other people's opinions. Is that we've been culturally, societally, we've had all these pressures to develop a performance-based identity, which is like your identity is threatened by your house being dirty. Your identity is threatened by not doing the things that you thought were tied to your worthiness as blank, because our identities are driven by external validation and outcomes such as like check boxes. And
Yes.
and what you shifted towards, what you demonstrated, is you became enough for you. And we'll talk a little bit more about kind of what that led you into as you detached from social media for a while. But it's like the shift that I often see. And time and time again, I'll have people come one on one, and they are in a crisis because they feel they're not enough because of they're comparing on social media. So do a lot of work about just saying, like, no one has their shit together. No one.
Mhm.
Absolutely no one has their shit together.
Yes.
And, I love on Instagram, we talked before recording about showing up as we are, right? Without the extra curation. And I love how people are just showcasing on Instagram reality versus what you often see filtered, right? And how important it is for us now to just showcase, like, all right, well, we were told that we're only lovable if we show up a certain way. So if we're not showing up that way, not only do we hide and not like post it, but we're feeling shame and guilt for something that's like We don't need to be feeling shame and guilt for that. What we do need is to reclaim the narrative and say, I'm lovable. And this performance based identity is creating these complete gaps and this wavering self esteem, so much anxiety. Depression often is founded on relativism, meaning that, like, the only way I know I'm worthy is by comparing myself to others and making sure I'm doing better than other people. And then the kind of the solution for it is a values-based identity, which I
Mm.
was feeling in what you were shifting towards when you said, like, I am enough for me. And how would you define that in that moment?
Jillian, that just, I loved what you just shared. It brought up like some stuff for me. And I think that for me, when I'm discussing all of this and I'm coaching primarily early career physicians and we're like going at 1,000 miles an hour, like go, 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 or building, building, giving, giving, it is very hard. And when you talk about all these things, hey, call yourself, you're enough, all these people look at them, sound so nice, such nice soft skills. Be nice to feel this way sometimes. But what does it matter? What does this matter professionally? What does this matter in the grand scheme of things? So I just want to quickly point this out. This is not a soft skill. This is career and life threatening because research shows that 24 hours that you spend per day, 42% of that needs to be rest. And I'm referring to statistics that are laid out in the book Burnout by the Nagoski sisters. So 42% needs to be rest, and that comes to about 10 hours a day, which makes me laugh as a physician. Like, I'm supposed to be resting 10 hours a day. And the rest includes sleep, it includes exercise, it includes time spent with somebody you like to talk to, a loved one, who actually can help you unwind. Now, when you don't hit that 42%, you will burn out, no matter how strong you think, or no matter how much you think you have to keep going. So look at the kind of longevity that you want in your life. I mean, we're talking about healthy aging, we're talking about multiple domains here. So this is not a soft skill. This is not like a nice thing to hear.
Yeah.
This is something very serious to be about. You should be becoming consciously lazy because this is the quote, and I'm paraphrasing because I probably can't remember it exactly. It's like if you don't honor the 42%, it will knock you over, stand on your chest, and declare itself the victor.
Mm.
And that's exactly, the way you're just feeding into cutting your career short. And frankly, all the other chronic medical illnesses, as well as your mental health and well-being, you're cutting all of that short. So none of this is a soft skill. This is absolutely necessary. Um, I am digressing a little bit in terms of the last question that you had asked.
I love it. It goes with my brain. I often take people all over it, whatever comes up. So I was following you, but you're like you're saying, when people, even when I offer them that they matter without their credential, I'm going to get unfollowed by people who are stuck in the, I mean, this is my, I don't know if people unfollow me, I don't ask them why they do that, but it's typically after I'm declaring that you don't need to do everything in order to have worthiness. And if you're stuck in the mindset, or if you think that my comment is a threat to your high achieving potential, it is sure not. And I know that from my experience, it's creating sustainability. And if we actually, as perfectionistic people, if we're striving for perfection and focus on outcomes, it will actually make our performance worse. We often develop performance anxiety because we're focusing on things we can't control rather than focusing on the things that are immediately within our control. And we're losing sight of the present. So we're like, our brains are just never in this moment and it's never enough. And if you don't think you're enough, you'll get negative thoughts about yourself, and then it becomes like self-sabotage. You
Mhm.
don't do your charting, you start to avoid things because you're afraid of showing up imperfectly.
Absolutely. I think that was beautifully said because when you are, it goes into self-compassion. You think that by being hard on yourself, by not following that 42% rule, which is a culture, I mean, nobody knows the statistic. So you think by working harder and by sheer brute force, you're going to make it to the finish line, some imaginary finish line, and you're going to get there. And the more you yell at yourself internally, you're going to make yourself. And so you're so scared that if for a fraction of a second you quit yelling at yourself, you're going to like all of a sudden your name will, like, all the other letters are going to fall off. You're
Mhm.
going to, everyone's going to start judging you, all these other things. You are so scared. Let's be honest, whoever is listening to this,
Yeah.
and you're a physician, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You're so scared. Well, in fact, all the work that Dr. Neff has done surrounding self-compassion, what she has shared, and other researchers, if you are actually self-compassionate, your intrinsic motivation goes up, which then allows you to look into more clearly what you want and look at the facts and be more mindful. And I mean, I don't want to use the word, but be more productive,
Yeah.
because you're going to take risks. You're going to be able to move forward and create more greatness for yourself. So if anybody just wants to look at purely from an income standpoint too, you're not going to be an under earner if you're self-compassionate.
Yeah.
So no matter what you do, you will find yourself. And in a nutshell, rest is a necessity. Being lazy is a necessity. Lazy,
Yeah. Yeah.
let me do that. And you had alluded earlier to kind of me then de-escalating it. I don't know, maybe you want to.
Yeah, yeah, and then just capture what you're just saying here, because people really have to absorb what comes up for them about shifting the narrative, right? It's painful at times if you didn't offer yourself self-compassion, if that's not natural, like it can feel painful to lean into that and be like, wow, my life never actually had to be as hard as I'm making it. We all have suffering, but we're increasing our own internal suffering by not offering us our own gift of having self-compassion. And Brene Brown found that in her research, the people with the most mental toughness are the people who have the most self compassion. And when you use the word productive in that sense, it's really getting clear of productivity in the terms that align with your values, right?
Mhm.
Like they're going to reach their full potential more and they're going to think they're worthy of boundaries. They're going to
Yes,
think they're worthy of saying no to the things that don't align because they have self compassion and self awareness of what it means to be with themselves.
100%. And there is this really nice equation that Dr. Neff shares. It's like suffering is equal to pain multiplied by resistance. So pain is going to come to all of us in physical, mental, other forms. That's part of life. But how much you actually suffer is multiplied by your resistance. How much are you actually resisting allowing yourself that emotion? So,
Yeah. So let's talk about like when we're thinking about being with ourselves. So many of us use social media or use overwork or over anything, right? Addictions of any sort in order to avoid that time spent with ourselves. But you have recently very intentionally chosen to detach from social media to spend more time living. Can you share about that shift and kind of what happened?
yeah. The first part, you absolutely were right. When we're doing the quiet time, what is it? A lot of times it's really not quiet time, or it's not self-care time, or it's not me time, because you're still going to have your phone with you. So are you really with yourself, or you're with the whole world and you're running away from yourself still because you're on the endless scroll cycle? And I mean, I'm not a perfect human. I am just as much with you on the scroll cycle. It's really hard to stop the scroll. So I had travel coming up. I asked myself this question. As an entrepreneur, social media is important for me. And social media is important for me because it allows me to connect with people. It allowed me and you to connect,
Yep,
Julian.
true.
So it is important. And I actually view it as how I use it is the way it's going to impact me. I was feeling tired and exhausted. It was time for vacation. So I first sat down and for Instagram, plugged in everything into a pre-populated calendar with the help of my team. And I told myself that maybe, I'll jump in a couple of times here and there, but not go and, view it every day, engage every day. And for LinkedIn, I decided that I'm just going to be off. And so I thought this was not going to happen. So I didn't put a hard deadline for myself. The last article I wrote was on psychological detachment before going on my vacation and extended travel. And I'm going to give the first opening quote that I mentioned of Dr. Ben Hardy on it. If you're never fully unplugged, you're also never fully in the zone. So, as I'm reading about the concept of psychological detachment, I'm thinking about how it applies to physicians and how we never do it. We are never psychologically detached. We take pretend vacations. We are always available. The other word was always available. And whoever is in academics is also further than expected to care for, you know,
Wait, wait,
lots of stuff going on.
let me allow that brain to just, okay. Okay, okay. Yes, sorry. Let's talk more about whoever's in academics.
So they're trainees, and I mean, I also not just coach early career physicians. I also coach
Yeah.
mid and senior career physicians, which allows me the perspective that if you are in a leadership role, you're always available,
Yeah.
and there are no boundaries. So how does psychological detachment then apply to us? And for it came as a big realization that I had never in my life, in my conscious living, ever practiced psychological detachment, which is, I'll give the definition of it. It refers to mentally disconnected from work and its related stressors during non-working hours. So it involves stepping away from work-related thoughts, activities, and concerns,
Mhm.
allowing oneself to engage fully in personal life and leisure activities. So you're completely detached, you're completely unplugged, and there's tremendous data supporting that you actually will return back much better. And I was like, wow, if we all practice that when we're practicing clinical medicine, when we're practicing academic medicine and other leadership roles, or pretty much anything in life, this would be amazing to step away from work. And the code kept going through my mind. If you're never fully unplugged, you're also never fully in the zone. And I said, okay, this is going to be my last newsletter that I'll post on LinkedIn, my last post. And then I'm just not going to post. So for somebody who was for a very long time, I would say almost a year, I don't have my stats right off, posting 5 times a week on LinkedIn and allowed me, again, tremendous joy, actively engaging. I love my followers and I love the conversations we have as a result in my DMs and over there. So I take it very seriously. And that involves energy investment. There's no bot, there's no other human who's answering people's questions or putting in fake comments at places. It's all me. So my engagement is absolutely 100% me.
Mhm.
So from going from 5 posts to 3 posts, and I felt like, okay, that was what I needed in that season of time. And then to completely go offline, could I do it? Was my biggest question. And I did. I didn't post. I had some people reach out on text and other ways to check in if I was okay. I also never recognized the incredible value of the relationships that I had built on social media till my friends reached out to me like, hey, are you good? So they know who they are. Thank you all for
Mhm.
checking in on me. I replied to their messages, but then I didn't open any of my LinkedIn messages. And as an entrepreneur, when you think that there is a business opportunity or there's something else, it's
Yeah.
very hard to unplug. And as a physician, I mean, that's a whole different thing, right? You have to do a lot of boundary setting before it. I prepped for that time, but then I am the one who has to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to come snatch the phone away from my hand. Um, and I did, and it was amazing.
Wow. I want to challenge the people listening to audit how often they are enabling themselves to fully psychologically detach. Like, just first is awareness. Because I'll state every time I want to take a social media break, the withdrawal of it all is interesting to observe. And like, wow, it's so behaviorally natural to just check and check. And like when I get anxious, I check and then it makes me feel worse. And I've been noticing in the morning, if I check social media, I immediately in this season of my life feel worse. Like whatever my brain is focusing on, it's not to say social media is all bad. It's like where
Okay.
my brain is, and then it will go on to validate certain thoughts that are in my head in those moments as I transition. And I help people with their transitioning because I know this is a hard time as people are like, your identity is shifting, you're grieving. And I'm like, I know this is a vulnerable time. And so, like, right now, where I love your modeling of this, it's perfect time for me to hear and many people online because I'm like, I have created a 3-month period of time and I'm going to ask myself how I'm going to intentionally spend it. And as perfectionistic tendencies, a lot of black and white, all or nothing, it's like, do you want it to be nothing? Do you want to set boundaries? What do you want it to look like? And to be able to uphold that. And I think sometimes it does have to start with a complete detachment from the social media to see what relationship you have with it. And
Yes.
then like, right, to let that, because if we, it's because it's so addictive that like give you a little dose and then all of a sudden your plan is out the window. Like, whoa, bam, boundary, and see how you respond and react to it. And I'm curious if you felt withdrawal symptoms when you started.
100 and 1,000. I mean, I could go all the way percentage.
Yeah.
It was very real. And I was very surprised. I don't know why I was so surprised that the withdrawal was there because I guess social media had never been a big problem for me. And when we talk about life and setting life with intention, you have to go back and look at the why. So, my why for social media is really to connect with other early career physicians and other healthcare workers and other humans that I can help to be vulnerable, to share stories, to talk about what I have learned and how I can reach out to them and help them. And that's my why. And that's a pretty strong why.
Yeah.
And as somebody, being intrinsically driven, Jillian, it was hard. So, and then there was habitual because before you know it, the app's open. Before you
Yeah.
know it, you're again. So I removed LinkedIn, but I didn't remove Instagram, and I let everything else, I let my Substack app be there, like everything else, Facebook was there. So I said, okay, what is my bare minimum, right? So for me, I love that you use the phrase audit. So before going in, I realized that what was depleting me the most was also where I was getting the most joy from. So it doesn't have to be something bad or terrible or however we want to call it or define it. At that time, when I stepped away, I felt the most overwhelmed with LinkedIn and I enjoy it a lot. And that's probably why. So I asked myself, okay, this one has to go. And the other ones, I said, okay, maybe I will check them a couple of times. You know, maybe what does the couple of times mean? Maybe once or twice a week, just to see like there's nothing crazy going on. Like I just told myself that mentally because at that time my team was also transitioning, so I couldn't have somebody else monitor that. Um, but other than that, like all my clients knew what was happening. Like I was going to unplug. I had put reminders on my email. So I had to do what I call this almost like layering before I
Yeah.
stepped and jumped. And then I had to hold myself accountable because I have made this proper plan. Now you have to act. It's kind of like making any health plan, from eating healthy, of going to the gym, of committing to a task, then you have to do it. Like you just have to do it. So the first week was really hard for me because I felt like before I knew it, I would have my phone in my hand. And then I told my older daughter, who is 7, that mommy's going to try and not use her phone that much because she's on vacation. And anybody who has a 7-year-old daughter knows that's probably all the accountability you need in the house because
Yeah.
then she was just like, we're not working, remember? And so if I was holding my phone, I'm like, okay. Then I realized as time went on, okay, over a period of 1 week, that urge started to go down. And the other thing that was happening, I was traveling and I was in Iceland and it's so beautiful. The nature was pulling me at that time. And after that, we went to some other countries as well. So I'm like, but starting out, I really just felt Zen. It was the perfect place to be in terms of like detoxing and looking at what was happening around me. So I realized I was getting out of the phone and more into the present. And so I was practicing more mindfulness. I do practice mindfulness every day. And I think that it just became very clear to me that this was the best decision that I have taken in a very long time. And intentionally, not just with that, I also knew that I had done that clinically. Whereas ever in my life, I hadn't done that, either in my training or anywhere. You're always thinking, there's some presentation that's left behind. There's always something. So I'd always taken pretend vacations. And this time I said, you know what? I really have to walk the talk. I mean, I have to model. I have to be authentic and this is what it is. And so the first week was harder, then kept getting easier and easier. And then I came back.
What was the transition like when you got back?
Um, I didn't want to jump in, to be honest. And for somebody who was constantly checking, I didn't want to jump in. Um, then I now am asking myself this question: what is the relationship that I now want to establish? So right now I'm allowing myself to stay in the summer zone. There's still some scattered travel. Sometimes I'm helping my children, sometimes I'm doing other activities. I am allowing myself to slow down and not feel that I am hostage to productivity metrics one more time. Um, I think that right now it's a lot of like introspection going on, and it comes through probably in the way I'm posting as well. And from somebody who loves things in a certain structure, it can be a little unnerving, but I'm allowing it. And it's so much fun that you don't have to tell yourself that, hey, I'm just doing this all the way. I know that all my audience on my email list is getting my newsletter weekly, because that's what I said, that's my commitment. Even when I was on vacation, I had already scheduled out my newsletters to go out. And and even with the newsletter, sometimes I want to send a paragraph. Sometimes I want to send a book. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a video. It's really allowing and modeling that it's okay. You don't This is all, I mean, this is a work of the heart, and I have to model what I'm feeling and what I'm actually teaching and doing, all of that.
It reminds me, thank you for sharing all that. It reminds me, so I have Mindfulness Mondays. And this past Monday, I'm so just had no energy. It's like, oh God, I can't break my streak for this Mindfulness Monday. Like, I need to make a video, but I know inauthentic videos for me, I'm like, I can tell they were forced. I don't want to put that online. Like, in the beginning stages of YouTube, I felt this need to set a cadence. And like, I was just like, you know what? I know that I put out these videos at midnight every single Monday. I don't know how many other people actually know I do that. Like, I don't know if they are relying on it, but I'm like, okay, in this moment, I have to trust that people can actually go back to my other Mindfulness Mondays if they truly want a video on a Monday. There were some that were there. And I did post a video on that Monday that wasn't a Mindfulness Monday, but then I edited it. So then it actually ended up coming out for real on Tuesday. Because when I posted, I changed the beginning of it anyways. But it was just this, okay, well, who set those rules, right? Like, if your newsletter, you're going to have people that noticed the newsletter didn't come in, but like, what matters more is that like you gave yourself that ability to be like, you know what, in this moment in my life, that newsletter could have come out today in order to meet the standard that I've created for myself. Sometimes the accountability is important. And also, as someone who's like, if this is a personality that needs to get this done every single time with rigidity, then allowing ourselves to miss one and sit through that can feel really uncomfortable, and also be like, wow, like it doesn't actually have to be perfect. I can miss a newsletter and people can look forward to the next one. They can reread some past ones. They've probably missed a few in between and they can go check on those. But like you said, your people that follow, I'm not on LinkedIn enough to notice. I'm sorry. But like, if all of a sudden I'd seen you, there are friends. I'm on Facebook a lot. So if I notice a friend who I usually see on Facebook a lot isn't there, I'll check in on them. But even Facebook, it's like the algorithm stuff. I'm like, I don't even see people's posts anymore. But it just really showcases you that even if you're detached, the people who are close to you can reach. They had other ways to contact you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did talk when you were gone, just slightly, because we had
Yeah.
a plan, right? But just to touch base, right?
Mhm, mhm. And I think, Julian, two points I will make is bringing us back to self-compassion and entrepreneurship. And I know that a lot of physician entrepreneurs are listening to this. So be careful of taking that same narrative that caused you to go through burnout. I'm not saying moral injury. I'm not saying that you did that to yourself,
Yeah.
but be careful of how you were trained from early childhood. And are you taking that same thing and now plugging it into being an entrepreneur? Because I noticed that it was
Yeah.
very real to me. So noticing that, what is the narrative? What is the story that you're telling yourself? Are you again making yourself go through that? And the second thing is self-compassion. That's exactly what you need in that moment, when you have made this plan, you wanted to do this, and you don't want to. there are two things: allowing yourself to feel that way, allowing all your discomfort and all everything's going to come out in that moment. And allowing yourself to notice that and just be kind to yourself instead of beating yourself up in that moment is important. And then lastly, authenticity.
Mhm.
Authenticity in connection on social media. So I'm like, last interview, I was wearing contacts. That was a day I wanted to wear a dress and I wanted to wear contacts. Today I have my glasses on. Yesterday I posted something. I was in scrubs. There was no makeup. If you look closely, you see all the stretch marks hanging from my arm while I'm driving my car. Other videos, you might see me more dressed up. So there's and that's how I am in life.
Yeah.
That's how you see me. If you know me, that's how I am in real life. And that's what I want to connect with you on. That's the basis on which I want to create an authentic connection. Sometimes I like lipstick and sometimes I don't.
Mhm.
And that's who I am, and that's okay. But if you are feeling pulled by these invisible metrics that you set for yourself, and you're not allowed to detach, and you're not allowed to be quote unquote lazy, you're going to exhaust yourself again, and you're going to have inauthentic communication with the people that you're trying to reach. And it's really quick to find out who is having inauthentic
Mhm.
connections.
Yeah.
It has been amazing as I have become vulnerable on social media for people to reach out to me. It has been incredibly healing for me because I tried to come from a space of authenticity.
Yeah.
So be careful of that. You don't want to just be doing things for the sake of doing things. Yes, there are certain baselines that you can define for yourself what that is, but you can challenge any and everything. Rest is critical.
I love that. Slam dunk. I feel like that takeaway we're going to land the audience with on this A Life True to You, or we're landing on authenticity and making sure that all of the things that you brought with you from your socialized self, they can end. You can start to grieve as you let go of the things that no longer are serving you. And it does take a grieving process, right? So it's not like, heck yes, I'm gonna like hurtle over this. It's gonna be glorious. It's like, oh, I can let go of what I thought I needed to be as you have a rebirth and live in alignment with the values that you have for yourself right now. And you showcase so well. It's like we develop these values, these beliefs young at different seasons of our lives. We're allowed to change, to challenge the identities that we once held, understand what values from those identities we want to maintain and which ones no longer align. And by showing up authentically, you will get the engagement from the people who truly align. And then you don't have to feel like you mask and like you have to have this performance, which is not sustainable.
Absolutely. I will echo that. And you know, to the followers and the numbers, and I just want to add that since we talked about social media, if you have 50 followers or 10 followers and or 20 followers and your message is great, power to you. That's 30 people you spoke with. So be also aware of the way you're comparing yourself and showing up. So if 30 people had authentic connection with you, that's huge. If that's in if for example for me, if it's like 30 physicians I help, that's huge. If I help one other physician, that's huge. So be aware of the narrative that you're playing for yourself.
Yeah, and Liz Trainer was on this, and I love that you made that message clear. And one thing that she said that's in alignment was like she shares her story to save lives, and if it's her own, that's enough.
So beautiful. Yes.
Right? Like a lot, my first articles came out because I thought I was going to die. And I'm like, people need to hear that they're not alone before I die. Because if they think they're alone and they are dealing with this pain and this shame and this guilt, and I don't say it, I will get onto my deathbed and I'll be afraid that I will regret not at least telling other people that they're not alone. Because in keeping that story to myself and that experience to myself, I am potentially not providing the opportunity for that person to also save their own life. But just think about like posting because it's meaningful to you, right? Because I'm going to share this because it means a lot for me. And you help so many people with what you've went through to kind of look back, when you do coach all levels of physicians, but when it comes to this fierce advocacy that you have for early career physicians, like I wish I knew this then. And it's this powerhouse of like mama bear helping people. And it's this mama bear, like fierce self compassion that came inward. That's like being there for other people. And you just are so tremendous. I value you so much, Amna. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Julian. This was amazing.
And what would you say is the next best step for people when we think about all the takeaways that you shared with us today?
Just take a deep breath and look at the facts of your life. How are you feeling right now? And how much of your time is spent doing things that are draining you? Just look at the facts. And when was the last time you truly unplugged? So look at the facts. Write down that hour, write down that number, write down the years that have passed. And I trust that you're smart enough to answer that question for yourself.
Hmm. Yeah. If you want to share and reflect down below, we'd love to hear from you, some accountability so that you can check into what you posted later. And Amna, what's the best way for them to connect with you? When you are
Everyone.
connected, if you're connected, whenever. And if she doesn't respond, just know she's going to respond when she can.
Love that, Jillian. You can find me on LinkedIn with my first and last name, Amna Shabbir. And I'm also on Instagram at dr.amnashabir. The website is earlycareerphysician.com. I'm here for you.
Awesome. I'm going to share those in the description below. Everyone, make sure you share your questions. If, of course, if Amna's always invited on this channel. So if you want to share your questions, we can answer them here, your reflections, your comments down below. We'd love to hear from you, and we're glad you are here. Until next time, see you around, friends.